It's TWAB time. Sit down. Sit down right now. Or stand up, I don't really care. Armor synthesis. The thing we've been waiting for, aka Transmog, was outlined in today's TWAB. And if you thought that this system would simply convert all of your legendary armor into universal ornaments for you to use as you see fit, well, I have potentially upsetting news. Let's talk about how this is all going to work starting in Season 14. There are three, count them, three currencies involved with synthesis. Synth Strand, Synth Cord, and Synth Weave. Synth Strand will drop from enemies. You kill stuff, you get strands. When you get 150 strands, you can visit Ada 1 in the tower to acquire class-specific bounties. These will reward Synth Cord upon completion. You will then convert the Synth Cord into Synth Weave at the loom in the tower, although how much cord you will need to convert it into weave, along with any other currencies that you might need, is unknown. There are 5 categories for bounties to ensure that you can be playing whatever you want to earn Synth Cord, Vanguard, Crucible, Gambit, Destinations, and Raids/Dungeons. Some examples include do strikes with a specific subclass or get points in the Nightfall, capture zones and control, send and defeat blockers in Gambit, kill bosses in Blind Well or Nightmares Anywhere, and or complete the final encounter in a raid or dungeon. Alright, pretty par for the course so far for Bungie. Here's where it gets a little dicey. Players may earn up to 10 Synth Weave per class per, not day, not weekly reset, not per month, per season. 10 Synth Weave per season, or 10 armor pieces per class per season. That could be 10 cloaks, that could be 2 full armor sets for your Warlock, whatever you want to do. But in what I assume to be the next season, to celebrate the launch of Armor Synthesis, you'll be able to get 20 Synth Weave per class for the season, which is 20 individual pieces or 4 full armor sets per class. So it'll be a total of 12 full armor sets or 120 pieces or 60 pieces, however you want to count it. Some exceptions apply. For example, this is only for legendary armor. Obviously, exotics are not going to be able to be altered. I was not expecting them to be alterable. That's mainly for in-game identification, so you can tell what exotics other people are using. That's totally fine. There will also be some exceptions at launch for Year 1 armor ornaments due to some technical issues, but they are working on fixing that for the future. Those include Vanguard, Crucible, Iron Banner, Faction Rally, Prestige Raids, and Trials of the Nine. So what is that, like almost all of it? But for example, you can still apply old Crucible ornaments to Crucible gear like you can now, but trying to put it on other stuff, I believe, is the thing that they're trying to fix. 2018 and 2019 Solstice Armor will not have their glows supported because you can't socket the glows alongside armor appearances with this new system. I'm guessing that's because they probably didn't want to build something that might have taken a long time to support only a couple of armor sets that probably not a lot of people are going to use or even own, despite the public outcry for the ability to use this armor in the current game. Eververse will also offer Synth Weave templates for direct purchase. You can buy a single template for 300 silver or a 5-stack for 1,000, and these are universal across all classes to prevent people from accidentally buying them on the wrong class. Shaders. We have discussed already that shaders as individual items are going away. Please dismantle those shaders to get free shards and glimmer before the end of the season. Hovering over the shader bucket in the customization screen will display all of your shaders. They will continue to cost 500 glimmer to apply, or you can hit the apply all button for 2,500 glimmer, and there will no longer be a legendary shard requirement. Shaders in the Eververse store will be getting their prices jacked up from 40 to 300 dust. A Year 1 Eververse shader bundle will also be available for purchase for glimmer, not silver, for anyone who hasn't managed to get a lot of them by now, although how many shaders are in said bundle was not disclosed. Oh god. Oh boy. Oh, I can already hear it. The cries, the pain. Let's chat. Okay. Bungie. Oh. Woo. Oh no. Okay, let's talk about the system itself. First, I don't know why we need 3 currencies. I don't know why we need to bother with killing enemies to generate a currency that we will use on bounties to get another currency to convert that currency into another currency. It's not that complicated of a system. Like, I get it, but I feel like it could be less complicated. I don't know what the issue would have been with just going to Ada, grabbing a bounty, and having that bounty give you a synth weave so that you can turn an armor piece into an ornament. Is it like the fanfare? Is it just the feeling of progressing a thing? Without the context of how much things cost, this is all I can really offer on this part. For example, if 1 synth cord is given for completing a bounty, and 1 synth cord makes 1 synth weave, why not just have the 1 currency instead of 2? Or instead of all 3? If it takes multiple synth cord to make 1 weave, then fine, I guess. Alright, I mean, the system, it's fine. It's manageable. It's not that big of a deal in the grand scheme. I just wish I knew why it had so many steps. But now we have the seasonal limits, which is what I imagine people are most upset about. 2 full armor sets per class per season, with the exception of the launch, which will be 4 per class, or 60 total armor pieces, or 20 armor pieces per class, however you want to math it out. This is a feature that people have been wanting since forever. So limiting it feels really bad. For this first season, with everyone being able to get 4 armor sets, 20 pieces, whatever, I don't think we'll really feel the impact of this limitation as much as in future seasons. I want to be a little contrarian here. Should I? Should I really go through? Let's be a little realistic here. While it would be nice to have the option to use whatever we want of the hundreds of armor pieces available in the game, most people, I imagine, are going to filter it down to probably a top 30 to 50 armor pieces or 6 to 10 armor sets. The more of an enthusiast you are, the more sets you have, the more pissed you likely are about this, and understandably so. People ask me every season for a fashion show. I'm making armor sets all the time. I have at least 3 to 4 per class, so I'm not really stoked that I'm limited to 2 sets per class per season. Regardless of how you feel about how much armor you are realistically going to use, knowing that we are capped at X amount of armor pieces per class per season just doesn't feel good. It doesn't. The big complaint I've been seeing is that it is not realistic for people to have a complete collection of armor without spending a lot of money, since Bungie is likely to deploy more than 2 full armor sets per season on average. Should that be a realistic goal? Should getting every single armor ornament without paying a ton of money or any money be a realistic goal in the game? Entirely depends on who you ask. I don't know, really. I think it would be nice to have as an option for the people who want to try to achieve that goal. I would rather have the option than not. What would potentially be nice is if this system was universal like the Eververse offerings. Instead of 10 armor pieces per class per season, why not just 30 total spread across whatever classes I want? I don't use my Hunter or my Warlock nearly as much as my Titan, so wouldn't it be okay to use 4 of my 6 armor sets on my Titan, and then 1 on my Warlock and 1 on my Hunter? Then if I get into Warlock next season, I'll just use all of my weaves on my Warlock in the next season. What about people who only play 1 character? Shouldn't we give them a few more options? But then if people who only played 1 character got to get 6 armor sets per season, would others complain that they don't get the same freedom because they choose to play multiple characters? I only get 3 and 3 and casual Kevin over here gets 6. That's not fair. I imagine some complaints would happen, even though I personally would not complain because it has 0 gameplay impact. I would never know if you only played 1 character if I saw you randomly in the tower looking good. But I suppose you can argue that 1 character players probably don't need that much armor in the first place. I'm not sure it's the best argument for something like armor synthesis, though. Shader costs increase in Eververse. We're going from 40 to 300 dust to unlock into your collection. Why? The reason Bungie gives is, quote, with the update to shaders, end quote. And that's it. So I'm going to make an assumption by saying that this update is the fact that they don't cost legendary shards to apply to armor out of your collection. The issue is that if you are any sort of a regular player of this game, legendary shards are a meaningless currency because regular players have thousands of them. They might as well not even exist. So for newer players, maybe this is a slight benefit, maybe. Otherwise, I don't know what world we're living in here where legendary shards and bright dust are on the same plane of existence in terms of their value. They're not even close. Legendary shards are meaningless. By the way, I'm assuming that the reason this is so limiting is because of Eververse, in case you haven't caught on yet. Think about it. If Bungie just enabled all armor pieces in the game, and I mean all armor pieces, are you really going to be that inclined to hit up the Eververse as often as you might be doing? Methinks maybe not. You would have just gotten hundreds of options opened up for you. By limiting how much you can synthesize in a given season, that still leaves the Eververse open as an option to either buy synths from Eververse or buy the seasonal armor offerings. This has zero gameplay impact whatsoever. Armor visuals have zero gameplay impact. This is not to spare us from too much grind. This isn't to spare us from anything as far as I'm aware. Granted, Eververse armor offerings tend to look really good season over season, so maybe it wouldn't have as big of an impact in the long term, but in the short term, while people get the armor synthesis craze out of their system, I think it would. It just comes down to cash, and letting people infinitely grind all the ornaments that they want would potentially mean less money being generated from the Eververse store. Let's just be real. People are gonna buy synths from the store. It's a money thing. That's why there's a cap on this. That's why I haven't argued to remove the cap from armor synthesis. I bet you've been screaming at me this whole time because they want you to buy more from the Eververse store. If it's not a money thing, I would love to know what it is. But that's why I haven't argued for the removal of the cap. Eververse is more or less non-negotiable. It's been that way for years. It'll probably never change. I'd rather argue for more flexibility as opposed to trying to remove the cap because I just don't think it'll happen. Is this all bad? No. We are, after all, finally getting a feature that has been highly desired for years now. We're getting a shader revamp, apply all button, UI looks good, not that I was expecting much less. There's just a lot of baggage coming with it. Almost done. I hope Bungie will make this system a little more flexible going into the future if we are going to have these limitations. This is not something I was envisioning having that much limitation or complexity. Yeah, I know, wow, Final Fantasy XIV, Transmog, not as limiting or anything like that, but you're already paying $15 a month for those games, so I don't think they're going to be able to get away with what Bungie is trying to do here. I'm looking forward to seeing if Bungie provides any sort of counterpoints to any sort of arguments that have been put up in the community today and in the future. Thank you for watching. Oh.